It's time to fire this thing up.
Welcome aboard ShipShape TV Essentials. This is your port of call for the most impactful upgrades, expert advice, and hands-on solutions from seasons past. This episode is proudly brought to you by SureHold, because anything worth doing is worth doing bright. From cleaning to protecting and perfecting, SureHold has everything you need to keep your boat shining. Don't just go boating, go showboating. Now, let's hoist anchor and set a course for another exciting episode of ShipShape TV Essentials.
If boating's your game, then you'll agree. ShipShape is the way to be. Out on the lake or on the sea, ShipShape means trouble-free. ShipShape means being neater. ShipShape makes boat work easier. ShipShape is the way to go. The ShipShape Boat Care Show.
ShipShape, South Florida's only boat improvement show, is being brought to you in part by Boat Owners Warehouse, Everything Marine, and by Cable Marine, where our qualified people make the difference, and by RPM Diesel Engine Company, much more than an engine company, and by Yacht Interiors by Shelley. When extra is needed, extra is given.
Thanks for tuning in to ShipShape, the Boat Improvement Show. I'm your host, John Greviskis, and this is my partner, Bertel.
Howdy, folks.
We're on location today in Stuart, Florida at Armstrong Nautical Products, and today we're going to take a look into putting a bracket on the back of a 25-foot Whitewater.
One of the advantages of having the bracket on the back of the boat is it reduces your noise levels.
It also opens up the back of your boat, increasing space.
And it keeps the boat drier when you're backing down on that fish.
As always, if there's a suggestion for a project that you'd like to see covered here at ShipShape, write us a letter or send us a fax.
Write your project suggestions to ShipShape, the TV show. Attention Project Director, Post Office Box 31561, Palm Beach Gardens, Florida 33420. Or fax us at area code 407-626-4348.
And remember, guys, if we use your suggestion on the show, you'll receive an official ShipShape t-shirt. But right now we need to hear a word from our sponsors, but you'll want to stick around because when we come back, we're going to show you how Armstrong builds the engine bracket.
Don't drift off. ShipShape will be right back.
Why wax when you can pro polish? This premium protective wax from SureHold can be used on virtually any non-porous surface, such as cars, boats, RVs, home equipment, and more. Pro Polish is scientifically formulated to repel water, provide a deep, high-gloss shine, and protect surfaces from the effects of UV rays, salt water, and other harsh environmental elements. Unlike traditional waxes, Pro Polish contains no talc or fillers, which means easy wipe-on, wipe-off performance that doesn't clog up microfiber towels. Enjoy a new way to protect with SureHold's Pro Polish. SureHold, clean and simple.
Welcome back. I'd like to introduce you to Tom Walsh out here at Armstrong. Tom, thanks so much for having us out today.
Good morning, John.
Now, you wear quite a few hats here at Armstrong. Can you kind of tell us what your role is?
Well, my primary responsibility is sales, but I have to get involved in design and fitting them and pretty much everything. Like you say, we wear a lot of hats.
Well, the reason we're out here today is we want to take a look into possibly putting a bracket on the back of a 25-foot Whitewater.
Okay.
Can you tell us the advantages of possibly having this bracket on?
Sure. Well, let me ask you a couple questions. Is it primarily a fishing boat?
Yes.
Okay. Well, probably the biggest reason people want to do it is to close in the transom.
Right.
You do gain some performance, but even if you don't close in the transom, it is better if you're backing down on a boat, for example. The bracket has a certain ramping facility that keeps the boat up, and your motors are 30 inches further off the transom, so it makes a better machine.
So it actually like planes a little bit when you're backing down on the fish?
It has a tendency to lift it because the bottom is sloped.
Okay, okay. Now, with the Whitewater, it's about a 24-degree dead rise.
Yeah, very steep dead rise.
What we're looking at is we have twin mercs on the back, and it sits a little low. Now, is the bracket going to make it sit even lower?
No, because we can compensate for that. The basic bracket, depends on the boat, has around 300 pounds of flotation. The box is an air chamber that whatever's below the water is going to give us some flotation. On the Whitewater, we'll have to calculate it out, but we'll probably make the bracket even a little deeper, maybe 45 inches deeper, and add another 2 to 250 pounds of flotation above and beyond our regular bracket.
So by making the bracket a little bit deeper, it's going to actually float a little bit higher. So maybe what we could do in the design process of this bracket is design it to not only keep its original line, but maybe to raise it up a little bit.
We'll have to calculate it out, but that's a distinct possibility.
That sounds good. What are some other advantages of having a bracket, Tom?
We do gain a little performance. The boat aerates the water just simply by passing through. So by moving the props 30 inches aft, you give those bubbles a chance to reach the surface, and the prop runs in a little cleaner water. So you'll gain at least a 4 or 5%. I've never seen one less than 4 or 5%. Sometimes as high as 10, but that's unusual. And with Whitewater, you're not going to get that because it's a good boat.
Well, let's take a look at how the bracket's actually put together.
Okay.
Now, Tom, this looks really interesting. What do we have going on over here?
John, this is the first step in the process. We've got the bare metal, and it's been laid out. You can see the lines here. These are cut lines and the bend line here. We're going to go from here over the shear and do the first actual cutting on the metal.
Well, I'd love to take a look at that.
Okay.
This is some piece of equipment here, Tom. It's impressive. Tom, now that the aluminum is cut, what's the next step?
Well, next step, he's got to mark the hatch holes. He's going to center punch here, and he's got to mark another hole over here because of stress relief for the wells. Go ahead.
The next step is to remove any excess material using a skill saw and a special aluminum blade.
On Rules of the Road, we'll look at boat wakes and what you can do to prevent wake damage. Basically, a vessel's wake is the path or track that it leaves behind as it moves through the water. Whether you're in a restricted speed area or not, you're responsible for your wake. And if the wave action your boat creates causes a boating accident or property damage, you can face criminal charges and may be liable for the damages. The Marine Patrol responds to hundreds of wake damage accidents every year, and these could have been prevented if the vessel's operators were paying attention to their surroundings. Always operate your vessel safely, having regard for other boat traffic, and obey the prevailing laws. But be especially cautious when cruising near boats at docks, at ramps, at anchor, in narrow channels with seawalls, or near marine construction areas and marinas. Boat wakes also erode our natural shorelines, causing mangroves and other trees to fall. To preserve these natural areas, slow down to minimum wake. Be aware of your surroundings and put yourself in the other boater's place. The next time you're out on the boat, have someone else operate the controls and watch what the effects of your wake are at different speeds. I'm Officer Christian from the Florida Marine Patrol. See you on the water.
John, the next step is we're going to use this center punch hole that we've drilled to drop a router pin in there, and we're going to cut a hole for our hatch.
Okay.
What he's done is putting some cutting oil in there so it doesn't bind as much.
Now that we have our hatch holes cut, we're going to go ahead and bend the bracket and get it ready for some welding.
John, this is where we start putting them together. As you can see, this is a really big bracket. It holds 4 250 horsepower motors, and it's going to Kuwait eventually.
Wow.
But the structure has to be super strong, obviously, so it's going to eventually have 5 plates on it, counting the side plates. And welding really has to be artistically done.
Now that we have our bracket welded together, it's time to do some cosmetic grinding. Now, a tip at home is to touch your stone with some beeswax. This will keep it from binding up.
John, this is the next step in the process. What we're doing here is we're using a polyester putty to fill any tiny little imperfections that's left in the aluminum, so the paint shop has a really smooth surface to work with.
So this is your version of a body shop?
Yeah, quite similar. But John, I want to show you something before we go into the paint process. You notice the angle on the bottom of the bracket? That's what I was talking about earlier when I was talking about the ramping effect when you're backing down on a fish.
Okay.
Okay.
Now, what kind of paint process do you guys have here?
Well, it's pretty elaborate. We start off with an acid wash to keep the aluminum really clean, and then we use a allodyne, which is a real pre-primer like, and then we use what you're seeing here now. That's 2 coats of a 2-part zinc chromate epoxy primer.
Okay.
And then what we use after that, we use PP Gelton. That's the top coat. That's what he's going to be spraying now.
Now, once the bracket's painted, it's time to put on some non-skid. Now, Tom, what kind of non-skid do you guys use?
We use a 3M product. We've been real happy with it. It's just a peel and stick product that just goes right on.
Now, this doesn't feel like the traditional non-skid that I'm used to. That's more gritty.
Right. No, this is a rubberized product because most of the time you got bare feet on there and we don't want to sand your feet away.
Okay. Now, Tom, I know that you need the air cavity to help with the buoyancy on the back of the boat. Why do we have the hole here?
Well, you got a bolt to the back of the boat. So your bolt pattern here, this is your transom.
Okay.
So you have to have access to the bolts. And when you get ready to hang the engines, you have to have access to your engine bolts also the other way.
Okay, that makes sense. Now, when we're running the harnesses and everything, are we going to run them through the bottom here?
We don't like to do it that way. We would prefer to see them across the top. We don't like to cut any holes at or below the water line.
Okay.
No.
Now, that makes sense. Now, getting back into the cavity, once this thing is sealed and you have your, what do you do? Just put a hatch on this?
Yeah. Well, you're right. It really has to be sealed. What we recommend to use 3M 5200 against the transom, which is a really good at sealing adhesive. And then we have our own hatches. We couldn't find anything that was watertight. You notice it doesn't have a trim ring around it. This is the whole thing. The hatch has an O-ring around the outside, and it has a threaded T-bar in the center, so it just slides under and then tightens down.
So it tightens down from the center, and it evenly applies pressure to this O-ring and gives you a seal. You use a 5200 when you're sealing in on the
Right,
transom.
yeah.
Now let me ask you about storage. Can you store anything? That looks like a nice area for storage.
Well, you can, but we don't like to see a lot of weight back there. That's getting back to the flotation aspect of
Okay.
it. Once it's on the boat, your water line is somewhere along here.
All right.
So any portion of the bracket that's below the water line is providing flotation. You put an air chamber, you force it below the surface, it forces the whole thing back up.
Now I know today we're talking about a repower on the 25-foot Whitewater,
Right.
but I'm looking on this bracket. This looks like you're making for the manufacturer, Hydrosport.
Yes, we are. As a matter of fact, that's about 70% of our business is directed to the manufacturers. Hydrosports is in North Carolina, as well as Regulator, who's also up there. And we do work locally in Fort Pierce for S2, the
Pursuit.
Pursuit, and West Palm Beach for Jupiter 31, as well as a lot of other small manufacturers.
So more and more of the boat manufacturers are actually coming to you.
Sure.
Because a lot of fishermen want
Yeah.
this bracket. Now, what is this bracket here on the side?
This is for our ladder mount, welded right in. You know, this is one of our new ladders behind you there.
I've heard a lot about these ladders, and
Okay.
it's kind of a unique design. What does it do? Just kind of slide down?
It just drops in just like that. And then the ladder does float, so that's what this is for. You turn that underneath there, keep it from floating out on you.
Well, here we are back at the boat. What we've done is we've removed the hatch. Now, Bert, what kind of situation do we have here?
John, what we have an oil reservoir sitting in a big area. What we're going to do is take this oil reservoir out, stick it underneath the center console, and use this area much better. What we're going to do is make an insulated fish box here.
Oh, that's a great
Both
idea.
sides.
Excellent idea.
We'll drop in a bulkhead about here so we can still get our saltwater wash down, our fuel line run through. We're going to run them down the center of our stringers.
Okay.
We're also going to put in a different live well because the one in that one is much smaller. We're going to make a fixed live well. We've got rigging tubes that will run through the live well. We're going to cut out these old battery boxes.
How does the transom look?
The transom in this boat is really good. Me and Tom went over it, and it's solid.
Okay, great. Now, it looks like there's a lot of oil residue in the bilge, Bert. How are we going to clean that up?
Well, what I'll do is I'll get a degreaser in here and wash this down because we don't want to have any oil residue when we do our fiberglass layups in here for making our fish boxes.
Well, that sounds great.
Chapman's Corner is brought to you by Chapman School of Seamanship.
Today on Chapman's Corner, we want to show you when and how to execute a mayday call. First of all, a mayday call should only be used in immediate emergencies, the ultimate emergency on board, such as a vessel on fire, a vessel sinking, someone that has fallen overboard and has been lost. The way we're going to initiate this mayday call is turn on your VHF radio to channel 16, and we follow the following procedure. Mayday, mayday, mayday. This is Shady Lady, Shady Lady, Shady Lady. Give your call signs, Whiskey Alpha India 3048. My position is latitude 27 degrees 37 north, longitude 80 degrees 32 minutes west. I am on fire and sinking. I have 7 passengers on board. They have PFDs on board, and we're preparing to abandon ship. This is Shady Lady calling Mayday on channel 16. Over. From Chapman School of Seamanship, this is Tom Dante.
You know, it's springtime in South Florida, and people are thinking about buying new boats. And I can't think of a better place to buy that boat than from Stella Marine. I'd like to introduce you to Bob Stella of Stella Marine. We're in the PGA Marina location of Stella. Now, Bob, you're a brand new Mako dealer, is that correct?
You're right, John. Yes, we just became a dealer about 3 weeks ago.
Now, what Mako are we going to take a look at?
Well, we're going to take a look at the new 29 walk-around.
What are some of the features of the boat, Bob?
Well, the features are it has a great big walk-around. It's got a beautiful cabin. It's got a double bed in the aft cabin of a walk-around, which is real unique. Transom door, integrated transom. This one's powered with a new 225 Mercury EFIs.
Okay.
Just a lot of boat, custom Top Gun riggers. You know, it is a beautiful time to buy a boat.
Absolutely. Now, what kind of draft will this boat?
This boat will
Yeah.
take, you can get this boat actually in about 2 feet of water. You know, you
Okay.
tilt your engines up. It's going to take close to 3 feet with the engines down
Right.
all the way.
What kind of fuel capacity do you have?
This has 240 gallons.
Okay.
We've got a 9'7" beam, so it's real beamy, and it's got a lot of high freeboard to it.
Now, what kind of range are you going to get out of that, Bob?
You've got roughly about, you know, you're going to run this boat at 30 miles an hour, cruise, and you've got close to a 20-hour range.
Now, the boat looks like it's designed to fish. Can you tell me some of the amenities that it has?
Well, this particular boat that we're going to show you can fish it because you can walk all the way around it. Okay, it's got your Top Gun outriggers with a custom hardtop. Rod holders are all built in the boat. And it's a big cockpit. You know, with a cuddy cabin, you get a big cockpit in a boat.
I've got you. So when you're on with a big wahoo or a big dolphin, you've got plenty of room. You've got the nice wide beam to where you're not going to be rocking and swaying and all that, and you can really bring those big fish in.
And you can bring them right through the transom door if you wanted to.
Well, that's a real
got a
nice
little-
feature, a real nice feature. What kind of live wells does the boat have, Bob?
The boat has 2 live wells. They're about 22 gallons. You've got 2 big fish boxes built right into the deck.
Okay.
Tackle centers built right underneath the captain's chairs and the mate chair.
Well, that's real convenient.
Yeah, again, it's a fishing machine. Mako has always been known as a good, strong fishing boat, and we'll have a full complement line here probably by the end of next week.
Now, what type of range are we looking at when you're talking about the full line of Mako?
Well, Mako makes boats anywhere from 17 foot, the basic 17 open, which is right behind us, all the way up to the 295, which is a center console or a side console.
Now, what about this new 33-foot Mako that I've heard about?
Oh, it's going to be a great boat. We just finished the Miami Boat Show, John, and the excitement on that boat has been tremendous. A lot of seating outside, big L-shaped seating, tremendous cabin, and we could probably sell 6 of them right now.
Well,
stock.
that's incredible. Getting back to this 29-foot Mako, what are some other amenities that it comes with?
Well, the amenities the boat comes with, of course, you have a private head. You've got a galley. You can write it off as a second home.
That's
you
real
know, which
convenient.
is good. The new 33 is going to have inboards in gas, inboard diesel, and it's also going to come with the outboard option. So it's going to be the big brother to the 293 or the 295.
Now, when is the 33-foot going to be available, Bob?
We're going to be previewing that in July.
Okay.
In July.
Now, I know that it was a tremendously successful boat show for you. How are you on inventory?
Right now, thank God, I bought ahead in inventory. I blocked out for the next 120 days.
Okay.
You know, being the exclusive dealer in the Palm Beach area and in Stuart, and we actually have a large territory, both our stores should carry 12 to 13 boats in inventory. It's done.
Well, again, I know that this is the time of year that people are thinking about buying that boat, and it's really great that you thought ahead and you brought the inventory to the dealerships. Thanks so much for being on the show, Bob. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for having me.
Well, that's all the time we have for today's show. Make sure you tune in next week when Bert gets into de-rigging the 25-foot Whitewater. Thanks for tuning in.
See ya.
If boating's your game, then you'll agree. Ship shape is the way to be. Out on the lake or on the sea, ship shape means trouble-free. Ship shape means being neater. Ship shape makes boat work easier. Ship shape is the way to go. The Ship Shape Boat Gear